tried to film a vlog before, it didn't quite go to plan, so I'm testing out this helmet mount and we'll see how it goes. I'm assuming, if you're watching this video, it worked enough for the first one. I just guessed on how much to angle the camera up, and I'm also hoping that my Cardo audio is okay, because the mic that I've got is not the one that I want at the moment. I'm having to use the one that's meant for like modular helmets, but I've got a replacement on the way, so hopefully, well, if you're seeing this video, then it's obviously worked enough. And I just thought I would talk about my bike, because every biker loves to talk about their bike. I got my A2 license in November, so this is my first big bike. I had a 125 for a few months before that, but this I would class as my first bike. You know, the first one that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on. I have a Kawasaki Ninja 250R, 2011, all black, although I am sort of slightly changing that every now and then. Her name is Noxie the Ninja, and she's great. This is going to be a very positive review if you can't already tell. And I say review lightly, I'm just talking about what I like and maybe some cons that I found, but you know the channels to go to about proper bike reviews. I'm not one of them, alright? So, first thing I want to talk about is the fact that when you're small, I'm 5 foot, when you're small and you're learning to ride a bike, I feel like there's an added challenge, because for the vast majority of bikes I've sat on, bar one, I've not been able to flat foot. And that's fine. That was never a requirement for me. But it can be sort of, not forced on you, but some people will tell you, if you're a similar sort of size to me, that you have to get a bike that you can not necessarily flat foot, but have a good, firm touch on the ground on both sides. And yes, I get where they're coming from, and maybe for my 125, which was a bit lower, that was very useful. However, this is a taller bike. In sport bike terms, it's still very short. Noxie the Ninja 250R, I think, is one of the shortest sports bikes there is in terms of seat height. I've also ridden KT's CBR 300R, and that has a very, very similar seat height. It's ever so slightly taller, but it's not also to do with the seat height, it's to do with the seat width, isn't it? So, the first thing I want to talk about is how comfortable this bike is for a small rider. I don't have very long legs, I don't have very long arms. It feels incredibly comfortable now. Alright, for the first time I sat on it, and for the first few rides, you know, you're very aware of how heavy this bike is. If she starts to fall, I can't catch her, but then you could say that about any sort of large bike anyway. You know, there's a lot of momentum taking them to the ground. But I can very happily tiptoe on both sides, but I never stop with both feet on the floor. I only stop with my left foot on the floor to give me a better foundation, should we say. Very positive in terms of how comfortable I feel on the bike, how easy it is to stop and hold up with one foot. Even things like handlebar positioning, everything, it just feels so, it feels like the bike I'm meant to ride right now. And I think you know that as soon as you go to sit on a bike, when you're going to test out different ones, you know when you found the right one, because it feels right, and that's what the bike chooses the rider. That's the motto. So, yeah, I'm incredibly happy with this bike. I'm happy to move her around now, as and when I need. I very rarely walk the bike into parking spots like a lot of people might do, because I'm more comfortable when I'm stood to the side and walking her around that way. Let's just join the dual carriageway. Go on, dude, I'm letting you pass. Next, if you're looking at the Ninja 250, and I hope you can hear me, I hope it's alright at this sort of speed. can get rid of some wind noise. If you're looking at the Ninja 250, you're not looking at the most powerful A2 bike you can get, you know? You're very well aware this is not as powerful as you can get on this license. That being said, she's got plenty of power for me to have fun with. It helps. I know I've had a pillion before, I've had Katie on the back of the bike, and both of us are pretty small, but you can feel the difference in acceleration. So I'd definitely say that if you're looking at this sort of bike, or any sort of the small, like Katie's got the 300R, if you're looking at the smaller bikes, if you're a smaller person, yeah, they're great. If you're like 6 foot, this ain't the bike for you, alright? It's gonna be too small. But for me, I'm having plenty of fun. She revs really high, she can very comfortably sit in motorway traffic. I've never had a problem with that. Oh, I missed the biker nod. I'm sorry, biker, you're on the other side of the road. Next thing, and apparently this is something that all Kawasaki bikes have, is the finding neutral thing. It is so easy to find neutral when you're at standstill. Riding position wise, I find it perfect. I mean, take everything I say about that with a grain of salt, because I have short arms. I probably am leant over more than the average person, but it's fine. Obviously, if you're doing a long ride with a backpack on, you'll need to stretch out afterwards. But it's a sport bike, you know. It's not a tourer. You get what you ask for. And you're asking for a little mini sport bike. What else? See, the gearbox in general I just love. Every gear feels very deliberate, which is great. I'm surrounded by lorries now. Even though it is a little 250, if I wanted to sit at the front of that traffic there, I would get away from everyone with ease. And it's really nice to be able to do that, because it means that you tend to have the road to yourself a lot of time. When you've been stuck at traffic lights, you can just get away from everyone, and there you go. You've got all the road to yourself. Oh, another biker coming up. I'll give you a nod. Downsides. I can only think of one right now. There's no gear indicator. It's a very minor thing, because you learn to know what sort of gear you're in depending on the revs and everything like that. So it's not a deal breaker, and if you're coming to a stop, I just do an extra tap to make sure I'm in first, all's good. I very rarely have false neutrals with this bike, so the neutral light usually is true. What else can we think of? Oh, mods wise, I've not done anything extreme. I have a Scorpion exhaust, just a slip-on, and would you believe it, it has the baffle in. Currently. I wanted to, that was one of the first things I did, mainly because the stock exhaust, because this bike, you get a lot of the power with really high revs, it can feel very quiet down low. So I just wanted a bit more volume, especially at idle, which is what that exhaust gives me. Without the baffle, it sounds incredible. But, you know, for day-to-day use, I'd rather keep my eardrums. Power-wise, acceleration is decent for what it is. And I've been able to get out of trouble, you know, if someone swerves into a lane, I've been able to swerve and avoid them rather than having to brake. Let's say if you're on a 125, you know you can't really get out by accelerating around it. There are times, like if I'm going for an overtake, I know it's going to take a bit longer than the other, you know, other more powerful bikes, but it is what it is. You know, the plan is, I have this bike for my A2 license, and then next year, when I can do my A license, you know, I'll go for a bigger bike, and I'm going to be very sad to see Noxie go, but she is a stepping stone. Let me know what your dream bike is. What is your dream bike? Mine at the moment is a 2013 ZX6R. Beautiful bike, so much power compared to this, and there's also a bit of nostalgia as well, because my dad used to have a early 2000s version and he loved it. So yeah, I've got my eyes on one of them, but that's going to require some saving up if I want to get that for my A license. It's not even one that you can get and restrict for A2. It's yeah, you've got no chance with that. Other mod that I've done, which I'm not using at the moment, and it's what you class as a mod. There's barely anything I've done to this bike. I got it stock with like 6,000 miles on it. Should be well looked after. And the guy who I bought it from said I was exactly the sort of person he was looking at, because that's who this bike suits. Yeah, the other mod that I'm not using at the moment is heated grips, Oxford heated grips, the sports ones, which I was very fortunate to receive for Christmas, and they are amazing. I wear summer gloves all year round. I say all year round, I've been riding since this bike since November, but I'm wearing RST summer gloves. I'm not a fan of winter gloves, just because there's so much fabric. I prefer the thinner ones, so heated grips were my option to avoid frostbite on my hands, because I've never felt pain like it when I forgot to wear my glove liners before I had these heated grips, and then went for like a 20-minute ride in 2 degrees. Oh my god, that was awful. At least I could take my left hand off the bars every now and then to sort of take it out of the main onslaught from the wind, but yeah, that was not fun. It gets to the point where you can't even feel your levers properly, which is not what you want to have. So yeah, if you're looking at heated grips, for me it was a no-brainer, because as I said, I'm not a fan of the winter gloves, but also if you're comparing winter gloves to heated grips, I would go with the grips. They tend to be less expensive as well. Obviously the only downside is once you sell the bike you lose the grips, but it sort of adds value to the next person, so because I'm hoping to sort of retain as much of Noxie's value as I can, because she's a very good bike. She deserves to be taken care of, so that's what I'm doing. Anything else I do will probably just be aesthetic. So got a bit of vinyl, I'm going to add some stuff. I'm not going to wrap full fairings, but yeah, I know a lot of people, mirrors on certain bikes can be a bit hit and miss in terms of like how good they are at high speeds. I've never had a problem with these mirrors. They're very firm as well, so I'm not afraid to admit it. Noxie has been dropped and the mirrors have survived really well. Actually, there's a scuff mark on one of them, but that's all there is. Yeah, there's no sort of, I know some bike mirrors that you get to certain speeds and vibration just makes anything not visible. Never had that problem. As far as carrying a pillion passenger goes, it's quite fun in terms of if you're small and you suddenly have a pillion passenger, suddenly the bike's lower, and it's great because I could flat foot with my left foot when I had Katie as a pillion. So that was fun. But be aware that obviously, because it's quite a low power bike, you will feel quite a big difference in acceleration. She can still handle, you know, going on the motorway, absolutely no problem. It just takes longer to get to 70 or above. This is what I mean by this is a very loose review, because now I don't know what to say in terms of, like, I just love this bike. I think it was a great choice for me as a first bike, and I'm gonna go past these. I think that person's letting me go. Thank you. Oh, another con. No fuel which tends to be a common theme. Why is a fuel gauge optional on bikes? As in, like, why do they just not have them? I have a fuel light, so it tells me when it's low on fuel, but it doesn't tell me whereabouts it is. So it's not the end of the world again, because you've got that fuel light and you sort of learn to figure out when it turns on how much you've got left. So generally for me, when the fuel light turns on, I've got 5 litres left, which is plenty of time to sort of find a station. But it's just like, is it really that much effort to put a fuel gauge on? I don't know, because Katie's CBR 300 has it, but mine just has a warning light. I don't know, it's a small thing, but again, both cons of this bike that I've found are small things. No fuel gauge, and what was the other one I said? No gear indicator. They're things you learn to get used to, and there's always going to be a con on a bike, you know. No fuel gauge seems to be a common one, same with gear indicator. You know, maybe your kickstand's a bit dodgy. If Katie's watching this, she knows what I'm on about. My kickstand's fine, don't worry. But yeah, I suppose it's like having an analog or a digital dials. You know, it's down to what the company wants to provide. But why? If anyone has the answer, please let me know. I'm very interested as to why sometimes you don't have a fuel gauge. It seems like a crucial part to have on a bike, you know. But there we are. Right, thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry if this wasn't really like a review, but more just me rambling about a bike that I love. I'm sure you can relate if you have your own bike. And I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't already, by the way. Alright, bye.